welcome to the Maitland City Council meeting of January 9th, 2023. Happy New Year. And please, if you would, silence your phones. We'll begin this evening with a moment of silence. Please join me. Okay, thank you. And if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have this first order of business, a public hearing on the issue of creating special assessments. Laura, would you please read the ordinance title?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, creating Article 5 special assessments within Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances, providing for findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mark, would you please introduce the item?
Yes, sir. As we discussed at the introduction of this ordinance on November 14th, the City Council requested the City Attorney prepare an ordinance to provide the City with ability to assess property owners for infrastructure improvements. The ordinance that's before you tonight basically follows the same outline as in Chapter 170 of the Florida statutes. So as we discussed at the November meeting, what this ordinance does is provide an additional tool to recoup costs for capital improvements if the city chooses to. So based upon that, staff would recommend approval.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? Seeing none, let's open a public hearing on this ordinance. Would anybody from the public like to address us on the issue of this ordinance? Seeing none, let's close the public hearing. If there's no further discussion, the motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance creating Article 5 special assessment within Chapter 2 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
A second.
And a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel,
Aye.
Councilmember Wild,
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, the ordinance passes. I should note that tonight we are a four-member council. I think Ms. Hall Harrison is not going to be able to join us this evening. Mark, is there any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. Consent agenda. Does anybody in council wish to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? No. Is there any public comment? Just open the public hearing on items 2 through 7. Anybody from the public wish to address these? Seeing none, let's close the public hearing. The motion will be in order.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel,
Aye.
Councilmember Wild,
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes.
Aye. Okay, now is the time for the public period where any member of the public may address us on any item that's not on the agenda this evening. Does anybody have anything they'd like to address?
Just a question.
We have a taker.
Dale McDonald, 108 Angelo Court. How's the 4-day work week going so far? Go ahead, John.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Dale. Anybody else in the public? Seeing none, let's close the public period. It's an interesting question. City Manager, would you have any? How are we going so far?
1 week into it, we've had no complaints.
No complaints, all right. Any praise?
Certainly it's a benefit for my staff. They like it. We've had nothing beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
That's enough.
All right. All right. Let us move into the decision before us this evening. The first has to do with the ordinance regarding water and sewer disposal meter reading. Laura, would you please read the ordinance title?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending Chapter 20, Water, Sewers, and Sewage Disposal, to provide for a meter reading policy, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Mark, would you like to introduce the items, please?
Yes, sir. During a recent audit of our water accounts, there was determined that we had some zero-read meters out in the community. Typically, when we have those utility billing, we'll get with Public Works, we'll go out, change out the meter, make a repair to that meter, put it back in inventory, be put back in service at a later date. But what we discovered is there are some circumstances where we don't have access to meters, they're either on private property, they're inaccessible, we don't have easements to them. In those cases, we'll notify the private property owner of the non-functioning meter and request that they change those out. This usually occurs in some of our older developments, older multifamily, older commercial developments, where we don't have access to it. What we discovered, though, as we're going through the process, is that during the period of time when the meter's not functioning, we have nothing in our codes to allow us for recouping the cost of the water flowing through the meters. So what we're proposing tonight is that we use a average bill, take three months previous to the meter breaking, average that bill at a 10% factor to ensure that utilities are recouping the cost while the meter is being either replaced or repaired. So that's what we're proposing tonight on first reading. This language is, most cities have language like this for non-functioning meters, so we just sort of put it together from some other examples of cities and counties that have utilities.
Okay.
We've done this in the past, but we just never had it on paper, right?
What we've done in the past is if you have a leak, you can show that you had a leak, bring something in from a plumber, instead of charging you a higher fee on the water side, since the water was not being used, we've done average billing for that to lower your bill. This would actually increase the bill if you have to charge a fee for a zero-read meter versus a overread meter.
Gotcha.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of Mark or Jerry? His name is down here. I had a couple of questions or perhaps comments. I mean, it seems like I understand where the ordinance is going after reading it and hearing your description, Mark. I'm not sure. There's a couple of things I would tighten up this ordinance, perhaps. And one is the question of access to the meter. So I'm looking at the second paragraph here, and it says, in cases where the city does not have direct access to the meter. Generally, don't we have access to all meters, at least to read them?
In newer development, we do, and some that they are actually on private property. And when at the time the development was approved, there was no easements in condo complexes, things like that.
Right.
Gated condo complexes.
So we don't have access to those meters in any case?
Yes.
How do we read those?
They're all radio read now.
Radio read?
Yeah.
Okay. So the direct access to the meter is, I was unclear as whether you're for reading or access to fix it or to.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. And one of the circumstances that we discovered is that there's no shutoff valve that was installed at the time the water system was installed. So it become a more complicated process where you have to shut off water to the community, then remove the meter, then put a valve in, and then replace the meter, then turn the water back on to the community. So it gets a little more complicated in certain circumstances, one that we're dealing with right now.
Okay. So it says, in cases where the city does not have direct access to the meter, the average consumption bill will be averaged plus 10%. But that's not the case in all cases, really. I think what we mean to say there is because you're not going to average bill everybody to whom you don't have access to their meter, right?
Sure.
So just to kind of make it more, I would just revise the ordinance to be more particular about fixing the meters. It's really the access to the meter to either improve it or fix it. And also I was kind of wondering, what if the average consumption, if they've been out of had an inoperative meter for 3 months, say, and you didn't realize it, and you kind of come in and you say, oh, we're going to average bill you for the last 3 months, but the last 3 months was zero. They're not going to be really incentivized to fix their meter, I guess, at that point, right? Is that, I mean, do you have?
Yeah, it should be for the last 3 billable months.
Yeah, there's just a few things like that I would just tighten up. I think it's going in the right place, but I just, those few things, you might want to kind of drill down a little bit more just to make sure, because it also kind of appears in the middle of this paragraph that we're talking about just meter reading, generally speaking, for most of this ordinance. And then when it goes, if it is determined that meters become inoperative, we're kind of spinning off into a new world there, but it's not signaled anywhere, and it kind of comes in the middle of a paragraph. So I think really the jugular of this thing is, it starts with the if there. So I was kind of, that's just some drafting recommendations. But other than that, I think it's a good idea to do that. And I mean, we want to incentivize somebody to fix their meter and not leave it unfixed. And also, but we don't want to penalize ourselves if we're in a position of having the average bill on a subpar meter. Does anybody else have any comments? Since this is first reading, it will come back, and I guess we can have perhaps a tighter bill next month, or ordinance rather. Okay. Let's see. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this draft ordinance? So the public period. Seeing nobody from the public wants to weigh in, let's close the public period. And if there's no further discussion, a motion will be.
I move to introduce an ordinance adding section 20-5 meter reading to Article 20 and set the public hearing date for January 23rd, 2023, and to make the modifications suggested by Maitland.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Laura, please read the roll.
Councilmember Wurzel. Aye. Councilmember Wald.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye. Okay. Let's see, we are, decision number 2 is the appointment of members to the canvassing board. Laura, would you please introduce the item?
Yes, the canvassing board is comprised of 1 council member, 1 the city manager, the city clerk, and 1 citizen member. This is required per state statute. The board makeup, we set our makeup in our own charter. The board is to direct votes by supervising the conduct of the election process and ascertaining the election results for council to accept and certify. The first canvassing board meeting is tentatively scheduled for the week beginning February 13th, followed by the required 2 dates at the Orange County Supervisor of Elections Office, which will be Tuesday, March 14th and Friday, March 17th. There could be some additional dates, and certainly if there would be a runoff election, there would be additional dates. We would like the appointment of a resident member and a council member and an alternate for each. This would be in the event that neither would be able to fulfill those duties when the time comes. In the past, council members have volunteered. Eligible to volunteer, Mayor Lowndes, council member, works on council for a while. And citizens interested in serving are Doris Hawk. She served on the LAB and served on the 2022 canvassing board. Karen Simisak serves on the Sustainability Advisory Board, and she is willing to serve also.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Well, let's take the council member first. We need a member and an alternate, is that right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Does anybody have any nominations for this?
Well, as you know, Lindsay and I aren't eligible to do it. So it's up to the 3 of y'all.
Who wants to throw their hat in?
It's a lot of fun. I've done it a few times.
If Dale thinks it's fun, that's not a vote of confidence.
That's a selling point.
Bill Cowles was very nice.
Okay, so somebody has to be able to show up on March 14th and March 17th.
I tell you what, I did do it. I was on the board with Doris last year, and it was great. I mean, you just learn so much. You see how how the bread's made and the sausage is made. It's fantastic. It's a pretty cool experience.
I'm willing to do it.
Right.
I don't want to,
That sounds
get
like
into a wrestling
volunteer
match
to
with
me.
Mr. Wild or anything, but.
Okay, we have I'll call it a nomination for the seat. Do we have a second?
I second that.
A third? All right, congratulations. We have one. Let's go for the alternate. Anybody?
As long as she's not gonna, as long as she's gonna show up, she'll be
Sure.
the alternate.
Okay, we have a nomination. We'll take that as nomination for the alternate. Do we have a second?
Oh, I'll second that one.
All right. And a third.
Well, there.
Okay. There we go. We've worked it out. And let's move on to the citizen member of the board. Does anybody have, let's see, Doris Huff is available, and she has recently served on the Lakes Advisory Board. She's no longer serving on the Lakes, I believe. And Karen Simasek is available, but she is also serving on the Sustainability Advisory Board, and she's eligible to do it as well.
Yeah. Two great people right there to serve.
Absolutely.
I hate to put anybody second, to tell you the truth, but I would say my selection would be put Doris. Again, she did a great job last year.
Okay, great. We have a nomination for Doris Huff. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a third.
I'll third.
Third, congratulations, Doris.
Thank you.
Thank you. And how about an alternate? Do we have
Definitely Karen.
Karen, we have a nomination for Karen? And a second?
I'll second.
Third.
And a third, all right. Congratulations, Karen. Here we go.
You guys
Thank you,
approved.
Karen, yes. All right. Madam City Clerk, does that do it for us?
That is perfect on that board, yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for agreeing to do that.
I wish you good health the week of the 13th.
Okay, our next is the appointment for the Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Pension Trust Fund Board of Trustees. Laura, would you like to introduce that item?
Yes, the first term of Brian Stewart will expire later this month. Mr. Stewart is currently serving as the chair. He is interested in continuing to serve and desires to be considered for reappointment. Mr. Stewart and another resident, Rob Roy, both submitted volunteer to serve applications, and both were included in the package.
Okay. Do we have a nomination for,
I would nominate Brian Stewart.
I'll second.
okay. We have a third for,
I'll third.
okay, we have a third for Brian Stewart. Congratulations, Brian, you're re-upped. I'm sure he's watching on YouTube. Congratulations.
He said he couldn't make it tonight, but he would come to a council meeting soon, so.
Okay, we'll make sure that happens. Of course.
Great choice.
Yes, yes. Okay, and the last item for our decisions is the March 13th City Council meeting. Mark or Laura, would you like to?
Sure, I'll jump in real quick. As you know, City Council Chambers here is used as a polling place for the March 14th election this year. There's a City Council meeting scheduled for March 13th. So the Supervisor of Elections will be delivering machines, ballots, polling stations on that Monday. With the election laws the way they are, the Supervisor of Elections needs to secure that equipment in the chambers, so it means it'll be locked on Monday. So we have a choice to make as to what to do with that Monday meeting. The choices are pretty straightforward. There's one of three choices. We can either reschedule it to a different date for that week, ideally, so we don't pile up on each other with council meetings. or we have it at a different location on that Monday. We want to keep that sort of in the downtown area. The easiest location would be the senior center since we control that building. But there'd be a couple other options if there was something scheduled for that, but I doubt there is for that evening. Or we could cancel the meeting. I've discussed this with department heads in terms of scheduling for what's coming up. There's nothing time sensitive scheduled for that meeting. There's no development applications coming through that's looking to hit on that first meeting of March. The other items we have, we can compress their schedules to get them into February or just push them to the second meeting in March. So there's nothing critical on that meeting, but it's at the pleasure of the council as to what you'd like to do to address the situation.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does everybody have any questions?
I talked to Mark, I'm sure we all did, and my thought was that we identify the senior center, keep it on that Monday, identify the senior center, and then my thought would be to put it at you, John, and Mark's discretion as to the need for the meeting to be made, 2 weeks before? So we could advertise it and have it.
Is that how much time you need, Lloyd? 2 weeks or a week?
Well, for change of location, as much notice as we possibly could, to get it out on social media and on the website. I mean, Robert would play a big hand in the education.
Okay.
I thought that would be less disruptive than trying to change it to a Tuesday or a Wednesday where people wouldn't know, and then I think it'd be better if something were needed to be discussed, that I would rather keep it on the same city council scheduled night.
And whatever motion that was, I'll second
Okay, well, let's, before we get to a motion, let's
Oh, yeah.
we have a public comment here to get through. And we have a taker already. Let's open the public comment period.
Dale McDonald, 108 Angelo, I think it's a great idea. Thanks, Mark. Given that's all the city can control.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Anybody else have any comment on this? Seeing none, let's close the public period and bring discussion back up here.
Any other thought? I don't want
No, that's a good, I hadn't thought about that, so that really kind of partially moves the decision down the road, right?
I would say that it would be essentially a deferral of the meeting unless there is business that needs to be discussed.
Here's the, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to bust in. The only thing I can see happening is, it's, if Lindsay and I are having an opponent and we're running a race and that's the last night of the, that you can get out and campaign, that's not a good time. Because you might miss out on 2 people on council.
Right. So yes, yes, that puts you all in a little bit of a disadvantage, and I agree that moving it later in the week is just probably not a great idea. And pushing it for another week puts us in back-to-back meetings at the end of March. Back-to-back 1 week, followed by another week, which is not the end of the world. If we have business to do, we can do it. Lori, do you have any ideas?
I mean, I don't really disagree much with what's already been said in the sense of, I generally would be hesitant to cancel this far in advance. Because it already feels like we don't have that many meetings in terms of when something comes up, but I understand all the other.
Okay.
In terms of me personally, nighttime in general is pretty flexible, so always grateful we don't need that much time.
You look at how it falls. We have a meeting on the 13th of February, we have a meeting on the 27th of February. No. Yes, right?
Yes.
13th and 27th. So then, if we were to move it 1 week earlier, you'd be on the 6th. And that would be back-to-back meetings, February to March. if you move it later, then we would have back-to-back meetings 20 and 27. So it seems like it seems to me that the better, it would be to either move it to the 14th or 15th if we needed to. If the thought is you don't want to set it for the 13th, I would say set it for the 13th, and again, if there was a need for a meeting, and keep it on the 13th, but if the fear is that we don't want to have that because of election issues, then I would move it to the 15th, and then do the same thing and just make it tentatively scheduled for the 15th with the ability to essentially have the discretion between Mark and John as to whether or not we need a meeting. I don't care either way, but that's how I would keep it the same week, just from a business of the city standpoint. Because Mark, you tell us if there's nothing that's pressing, then moving it 1 week seems like we move it a week later. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense when we have a regularly scheduled meeting either 1 week prior or 1 week after.
Yeah.
So if there's something pressing that needs to be done, I would keep it the same week. So I would either set it for the 13th or 15th with the ability for John and Mark to
I'm
make the
asking
call.
for this early because that is the week of spring break for me.
Yeah, no, I get it, yeah. So that would be mine. So, I mean, Lindsay's not here, but Vance, that's your thought as to whether or not we potentially needed to come in for a meeting on the 13th is a concern, and you would want to move it to the 15th. I'm assuming you wouldn't want to do it on the 14th, so
Right.
15th would be the alternative.
I think that, as long as we give Lori 2 weeks' notice, I think it keeps us with that flexibility, correct? So,
So Monday or Wednesday, though?
we could cancel it too, so we got 3 options. So,
Well, if you cancel it and there's something, you can always call the meeting
Yeah, the
again.
mayor can
I mean,
always call a
that's-
meeting.
Yeah, that's your call, I mean, mayor's call. If the meeting is canceled and we have something coming close to that date that needs to be heard, you can pick any day during that week to call a meeting, so, or whatever day you choose.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's keep it on the schedule with an option to cancel, or cancel with an option to put it back on the schedule. So, and that would be, the second one, which is cancel with an option to schedule, is something we have, through the special meeting ability anyway.
Well, yes, and per the charter only requires you to have one meeting a month. So you always have that flexibility.
Okay. All right. So, Mark, are you willing to wait for?
I asked, look, I would stick with my original one, I would keep it on the 13th and have John and Mark convene to keep the meeting or cancel 2 weeks in advance. And I would say that based on what we're hearing, and the location of the meeting would be at the Maitland Senior Center and Vance, this is your call, whether it's the 13th. If you've got an issue with the 13th, then we'll just say the 15th with the ability for.
If we have a 15, get out of here.
True.
yeah. I'd feel more comfortable with the 15th, just moving it back, and then if we need, we can cancel it.
Okay.
And then we know that, we're good to go.
So that would be mine. Move the meeting to Wednesday, March 15th, with the decision to have the meeting or not to be made by the mayor and city manager by no later than Wednesday, March 1st.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
All right. So we have a first and a second, motion and a second. Laura, would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel,
Aye.
Councilmember Wild,
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Mayor Lyons.
Aye. Okay. And we're down to the end here, for you football fans, we're down to the end. City manager's report.
Nothing for this evening, sir.
Okay, the city attorney.
Nothing for this evening, sir.
Okay, anybody from council have any business?
I guess I had one question and then 2 things. and I know this is kind of early, have we had any increase in employees? Have we had any new hires?
I'm going to have to get back with you on that. I know
I just-
we've been processing a few, and so I guess the answer is yes. But
Good, we're going in the right direction.
Yes.
We want to go.
Yeah,
I just,
I signed 3 letters for new hires like 2 weeks ago.
And I see them come through for their orientation, so. But I don't see when people leave, they don't sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Because hired 3
They
people,
don't
lost
want
10.
it.
Yeah.
just want to say that the Get Down Downtown, that band was probably one of the best bands I ever heard.
Really?
They were great. I mean, we were walking up and they were playing The Cure and it sounded just like The Cure. And then there was another band that sounded just like, and then 9 Inch Nails sounded like 9 Inch Nails. And I was like, wow, this is a fantastic band. So I just wanted to give props to them. And something I discovered on Tuesday nights at Teak, they do a trivia night and it's fantastic fun. So, and it's loaded down there. I think there was like 15 teams on Tuesday.
Okay.
So.
Great. And I was at Farmers Market on Sunday, and there was a lot of people down there, so that was also good. Anybody else?
Just, I guess it's the first opportunity to say thank you to probably mostly Jay and anybody else involved in all the different holiday things that happened. Our family enjoys, I think, all of them. The Santa that comes here, my kids think might be the real deal. And I think also the fire department bringing Santa and the Grinch through, and the police department through our neighborhoods is always exciting. So many different, we went to the library and enjoyed the Polar Express party. I see Stacy there, so thank you to everybody who makes all the magic happen.
Laura, we got to ask, how many pounds of candy did y'all buy for that?
Costco's out.
That was a lot of throw. It'll hurt your throwing arm.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the meeting.
Yeah,